Good morning, students. As you can see, our focus for week 2 is to write a persuasive essay titled Contemporary Conundrum. And so with this announcement or video, I would like to give you some additional insight on how to plan for your first essay and how peer grade is going to work when we have our workshop starting tomorrow. So, as you can see, the topics for Contemporary Conundrum are we losing the art of listening? Which is more important, talent or hard work? Do people complain too much? Do you believe that everything happens for a reason? The American dream is dead? Social media is the downfall of humanity? Can money buy you happiness? And is your generation more self-centered than earlier generations? So I just want to add a little information on the purpose of this essay. And so with each question, you are being asked to argue a stance. So either yes or no. If I would look at the first one, are we losing the art of listening? So you could argue yes or no. And so either whichever direction you take, you should argue with reasons or premises, and you will need to find 4 credible sources. And in the overall, I will be looking at the legitimacy and use of sources, how the strength of the argument is built, how the paragraphs build upon each other to present an overall logic argument. So these are the questions that you can select from to choose for your first essay. So with that, in the writing process, there's 2 things that you can do. You can begin with doing an outline and brainstorming ideas. I'm sure that most of you have heard of these ideas to get your essay started, so I'm just going to give you a few pointers as it appeals or as it stands for persuasive writing. So one task that you can do is free write. So you can free write on ideas for the topic you have selected. And a good place to start is to look at the question, when I think about selected topic, I think. And then whatever comes to your mind after that, just free write. When you free write, do not limit or edit what comes into your mind. Just let it flow from your head down to your arm, through your hand and onto the paper or onto the computer screen. Do not censor yourself, because anything that comes into your mind could be a potential idea to use later on. So, but some things that you would want to consider when free writing is your audience, ways to use appeals. How might you introduce and conclude your persuasive stance? And what is your overall purpose? So mind you, yes, you are writing a persuasive essay, but why are you writing the persuasive essay? What is the end goal of asking the question, are we losing the art of listening? Why is that relevant today in 2018? And secondly, I would like to point out that as a reader, or from the reader's perspective, when you first read something, you have to engage right away. You have to be hooked right away. And the ending or the conclusion might have to sell your last point. So actually, writing the introduction and the conclusion could be more of a challenge than the body of the essay, because the reader needs to be engaged to begin with, and they need to remember what your point is at the end. The middle, yes, is important, but you have to hook the reader in the beginning, and you want them to remember at the end. Okay? So, when it comes to brainstorming ideas, here are some other things that you can plan about. Can you clearly state your thesis and conclusion? Knowing what your thesis is, that is the heart of your essay. And if you can clearly identify what is your stance, what is your thesis, you can build from that. And then, do you have 3 to 4 premise ideas which connect to each other and builds an argument? Have you thought about where to gather your sources and where could evidence be integrated into your writing? And is the evidence able to prove the premises that you have? So these are some things that you want to consider when brainstorming for your essay. So just to give you a quick snapshot of what makes an effective persuasive essay, an essay should be well organized and well developed. It should establish its subject or main idea in the introduction. It develops the idea in a coherent manner in the body, and it summarizes or completes the discussion in the conclusion. An essay is also logical. It supports its main points with appropriate evidence, illustrations, and details. And with that, I would like to stress that when you do provide evidence, or let's say a quote, it doesn't always have to be a direct quote. You can summarize, you can paraphrase, you should integrate evidence in a variety of ways because that way it keeps the reader guessing. If you always fall to the same mode of integration, it can become a bit monotonous for the reader. So that's just something to consider. Lastly, an effective persuasive essay is clear and readable. You should use words, sentences, and paragraphs that are carefully crafted, appropriate for the writer's purpose and audience, subject, and free of errors of usage, grammar, and punctuation. Mind you that this is also your essay is also supposed to be an academic paper, so you should be mindful to use third person, no contractions, and a sophisticated vocabulary. So now peer grade. I have sent many invitations to some of you in order to engage in the workshop that is going to begin tomorrow. So you can see in each module tab, there is a button for peer grade. So we are going to be using peer grade solely for the purpose of peer review. And in order for you to engage in the workshop, you have to submit your draft first. You will not be allowed to participate in the workshop until you submit your draft. And mind you also that there are steps and windows close. So tonight at midnight is when the window closes for draft submission. I believe you would be allowed to submit something late, but you will not be allowed to participate in the workshop until you have submitted. But Wednesday and Thursday are completely crucial because those are the 2 days solely for peer review. And how it works is after you submit your paper, you will go into the peer review, and peer grade would automatically assign you a student's essay to review. You cannot pick who you want to review, and you will have to do two peer reviews for 2 classmates. And the window closes on Thursday night at midnight. So make sure that you give yourself enough time to do 2 peer reviews because after Thursday, the window is closed and you lose out on participating in the workshop. And then Friday and Saturday, after you have reviewed your peers' feedback, you have 48 hours to submit or even more to revise your essay, and then Sunday night, by midnight, you will submit a polished essay in APA or MLA paper format with a works cited page if you're using MLA and a reference page if you are going to use APA. So here is what peer grade looks like. This is what it looks like from the instructor's view. I don't know what it necessarily looks like from a student's view, but this is what it should look like. So you can see on the left-hand side, we have class overview, participants, summary, and settings. Maybe that's different for you as a student, but for me, this is what I see. And you will click on the assignment Essay 1 Contemporary Conundrum Workshop Feedback, and you can clearly submit your essay there. Okay? So, last thing is a free writing and outline exercise. Free writing, and that should be a free writing, not and free writing. A free writing and outline exercise handout will be posted shortly in the Module 2 tab, Essay 1 Contemporary Conundrum. While this writing exercise is not graded, it's not a grading writing activity. It will help you to prepare and organize your ideas for your first essay. I highly encourage you to reach out to me or to share your ideas in the Essay 1 discussion thread. And I do have, this is what it looks like. So you can see I use that same when I think about topic, and then you can fill out premise 1, premise 2, premise 3, premise 4 if you have one. A conclusion, you can list your links of the articles that you have found, and then for each premise, give evidence. So I kind of cut off premise 1, but there are 3, and then list some ideas for your introduction and conclusion, and then think of a persuasive strategy in regard to ethos, pathos, and logos. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful for everyone in outlining what are the expectations for your essay 1. If you do have any questions, as I mentioned, please feel free to reach out to me, or I would also encourage you to post a question into the Essay 1 discussion thread. That way, if other students also have a question, they might be having that same one, and you might see a response from that. So we're all here to help each other, and I look forward to engaging with everybody in your discussions and seeing your first essay. Thank you very much, and have a great Tuesday.